Did our inaugural run. We have 100 miles on the +8 setup. It rides like a dream. It's a lot more comfortable in the sense that you're just cruising. You're not in a rush anywhere. That we found ourselves doing 70, 75, just cruising. It was such a nice thing. The only downside is that we will not be running a fairing, so all that wind, I definitely felt a little bit more of an arm fatigue where I felt myself getting pulled towards the back of the motorcycle because the wind was coming right at my chest and pushing me back. But we have been thinking that we want to do a +10 front. That's going to be 33.5 inches for M8 Softails. That this is the nice look, but in my mind, it's not as much as I have it. That since we ran +4 previously, again, this is the additional 4 inches. It looks similar to that, I think, because we had a smaller 17-inch wheel. So we were kind of already at +6 is what it looked like with the fork tubes. And I think +10 will be just right, where we have a little bit of extra slack in our brake line that we could probably afford an extra 2 inches. So in preparation for a couple things to come, one of the things that we've been really looking at and considering is swapping out the gas tank. We're going to mess with the FX FBS tank that's going to be for the Fat Bob 2018 Softails and see how it looks with a smaller gas tank. We're really wanting to go with a 2.5-gallon Sportster tank. It should be a similar fit. I don't know if it's going to be a direct mounting point with the holes, but if anything, we started taking welding classes that now we can kind of cut a piece of steel, weld some pieces together, and then mock it up, and we should be able to get squared away. And then it's the same EFI, which is going to be the electronic fuel pump. And I believe it should fit with the same one that we have for the Fat Bob tank because it's not overly large or it has an extra little funnel that goes like on some of these bigger tanks to get fuel from the other side. We picked up this strutless rear fender off eBay. It's not a direct mount that the part of the swing arm or the monoshock guard that goes over on these new monoshocks is in the way of some of the areas, so the clearance isn't all there. So we may just grind parts of it, just mark where we could remove some of the material and then see how it looks. So this is going to be a little bit more of a hugger, that the wheel is pretty much buried in there with maybe like an inch or two of clearance. Super sick. And then we can build our seat that we're looking for to do a custom king and queen seat, and then after that probably a sissy bar. But that might be near the tail end of cutting it just another wire for Born Free Texas. We're really trying to get this thing kind of dialed in the direction that we want for Born Free Texas, which is in October, and that's going to be out towards Houston. The actual city eludes me a little bit, but basically you can just look up Yellow Rose Canyon. But if not, we'll have it basically set up with new tank, new bars. I'm really looking forward to that. New lights. We've got our new headlight mount in. That the headlights are actually coming in today, and we're going to mock them up. What's something that you would do if this was your build? Would you do a front brake delete? Would you do ape hangers, T-bars, Z-bars? Would you do rabbit ears? Drop a comment down below. That's gonna be the downside, bro. None of that gonna be able to go through there. So we're noticing that we ran into a bit of an issue is that we have all our internal wires through the neck, and then this light bracket basically is gonna pinch them against the neck. We're gonna have to figure out a way to basically rewire everything. We're getting rid of our turn signals, so that's gonna be one thing. We're gonna move them somewhere else. If you have never done this, just take photos. That way you don't feel as intimidated whenever you have to go back and do stuff like this, because then you can reference all the photos you took. But a lot of this stuff with the M8 Softails just plugs in, and it's pretty easy to tell. But you know, when you've never done it before, you second guess yourself a lot. You're like, oh man, maybe it doesn't go here. And if that's the case, if say you end up taking everything apart and then you just don't know exactly what goes what, as long as you have the connectors like in place and you can connect them easily, you can always just plug them and then turn your bike on and then go through the functions. So that way you can see if you plug something in wrong. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll mistake where the left turn signal goes or the right turn signal because they're in like two different spots. Like so say one's here and one's up there on the main canvas system. And then I'll turn on the bike and I'll put left, and oftentimes the right will go on, and then I know I just have to swap them around. So right now it won't mount up, and this part will be difficult to see, but maybe you can hear it. It's hitting the neck. So what we're going to do, here's how it mounts onto the bike. And so what we're going to do is shave up in here, remove about ½ an inch, I'm going to guess, and that way it's kind of close. And then after that, we would try and come back, we're going to revisit and try to remount it. Make sure there's just a good amount of clearance. And that way, when we manipulate the bars left and right, it's not gonna be rubbing on the neck. Dude, look at that. And so there's two of them. Essentially what they're gonna do is, I want them to sit kind of like stacked. We can probably bend this. That's what we're going to do in order to allow this other one to sit back here. I'll probably still bend this one, just bracket down. Right here. Bend that down to give this a little bit more room. The color is pretty nice. It's like a faint yellow. I may add another film, another strip of film. This is how it came. These came yellow. They do offer white, they do offer yellow. All the other lights that we had, we ended up removing the cap that's on it and adding a little bit of yellow headlight film. And we usually run 2 pieces to give it the yellow that we want. This is just a nice colored yellow, but I think maybe just a little bit darker for my eyes, for what I like, is what we're gonna be getting. But I thought these were gonna be too small, but they look pretty good, especially when we swap the tank out. That the Fat Bob tank looks nice, but it's not what I'm looking for, where I want it to be a little bit higher, and the Sportster tank I think is gonna do the trick. We picked these up off Amazon according to the bracket that we were looking at to set a 2-pole, and they're each 3.1 amps. And so it's gonna be a total of 6 amps, so I need to figure out if that's gonna be too much for the headlight. Now these are both gonna be plugged into our low beam. Since they are so bright, we're not gonna need a high beam. I like the look of how both of them on look, and it's also just so bright. This probably won't be road legal. Rolling down the street, we're gonna do a road test just to see that. We'll probably angle one a lot lower, and this one we can cant up a little bit, but like maybe something like that. We have taken off our old tank. We have unplugged all the wires in preparation for the new bars, which should be arriving Monday or Tuesday of this coming week. We're gonna be ditching the OEM turn signals. We're basically just gonna be running clutch side, mirrors, throttle by wire cable, and then also the right-hand control module, left-hand control module, and that's basically it for the new bars. That they are gonna have an opening for internal wiring, where basically it comes through here, there's an opening, and then just feed them out through. So I'm excited to say our new tank came in. Well, I know where the knife is. I feel like the garage gets more and more cluttered the more stuff we get. That here pretty soon we're gonna need a whole other garage. Y'all ready for this? The box got pretty beat up in shipping. So what you're looking at is a 2.5 gallon tank for Harley Davidson motorcycles. So taking a look at it, here's some of the craftsmanship. Here's the underside. There's the overflow. There's some of the welds. This is for 2007 up, EFI. All right, so now we're just gonna kind of mock it up loosely. Since it is for Sportsters, the 2 mounting points are more than likely not gonna fit. It's a little bit better to fit. God, it's way too tall, dude. We'll just put it on there for now. So just taking a look at it, we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna chop this. Basically, we're gonna have to bring this whole bracket down so it sits basically on top of the bike versus it floating above the bike. And then here's where the rear bracket is. It's just a little bit farther back. What we could actually do is probably just cut a section of metal again, and then weld it back together. But we'll have to figure that out once we actually attach it. And this might be able to be alleviated if we basically cut a portion of it. That's gonna be interesting. Maybe move the mounting hole up.